Hi, everybody. Welcome to LISI's vlog, News, Views, and To-Dos. I'm Kristyn Brophy. I am the Director of Client Strategy at LISI, and I am joined today by my friend and former colleague, Jennifer Taddeo. I'm very excited to have you here, Jen. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm really excited to be with you again. It's
Oh,
fun to be
yay.
on here.
Yay, thank you, thank you. So, I told you a little bit before we got on. This is the our vlog series, our video interview series where we ask legal marketing professionals, or in this case, a marketing-minded lawyer, the same four questions. What's going on in your world? What is your recent news? What's going on in the industry, and what are your opinions about the industry? And then some advice you have for our audience and maybe other attorneys out there. So I would love to start with you introducing yourself to our audience, giving a little background. I am very excited because you are our first attorney and non-marketing professional on this video series. And when I was working with you, I got so much support from you as a champion of marketing and business development, and I just really wanted to share your views with our entire audience in the world. So please introduce yourself, give us a little bit about your background, tell us about your practice area and such.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I am an estate planning partner at Conn Kavanaugh, where I like to say that I bring death and taxes to life. I have been doing estate planning for over 20 years now, which seems like a lifetime, especially since I'm only 29. It is an area of the law that I love. I am a bit of a tax geek, and I find it's like a puzzle. If you can arrange things in a certain way, you get the outcome you want. And I started my career actually doing corporate international tax reorganization, which
Oh,
was
wow.
very sexy and exciting and concrete. I was adding a few cents of profit per share. It felt very quantifiable. And at some point, I realized I'm only adding a few cents of profit per share. I'm not impacting somebody's life. And I found that as I was working on my LLM in taxation, I took a few classes in the estate and gift tax area. And then I started going to the Boston Bar Association's Trust and Estate section lunches. Just I would show up. I was not practicing at that time. I was not in estate planning, but I would just show up at all of the lunches, the brown bag lunches about different topics, and take pages of notes, and then take the people who taught it out to coffee afterwards to ask them all my questions. And I became fascinated with the ability to use that tax in a way that really made an impact for people. And over the years, the experience that I've gained has allowed me to help people really avoid problems. I see the same pattern play out time and time again. It allows me to say to a family, all right, if we draft it this way, here's the way in which things could go wrong. Let's head that off at the past. So I really do get to work with my families as a problem solver.
That's really excellent. And I don't know how I didn't know that about your background and how you got into estate planning. I just assumed you always loved helping people and, doing the private client or personal clients and families. And that's a really great example and great story of how your networking efforts through the Boston Bar Association or the BBA kind of led you to this practice area. So, do you have any tips for attorneys that might want to change their practice, or even maybe our marketers who may want to go into a different area of marketing using that kind of networking method?
I think you always lead with curiosity. I remember from those days, I would reach out to the person who taught and said, hey, I was at your brown bag yesterday. I have a few questions. Can I buy you a cup of coffee and ask you? And the estate planning bar in particular is such a collegial bar, such a friendly and supportive bar. People always said yes. And I would show up, we would get our coffees, and I would pull out my legal pad full of questions. And almost without exception, the person said, oh, you really have questions? Yes, that's what I said. Well, I thought you were just trying to back end your way into an interview. and and I said, no, I have a job. I'm not looking. And I would just ask my questions and built up friendships and relationships with these people. My first job in estate planning, though, I got through answering an ad. But my second job in estate planning was because one of those people that I had met heard that I had bought a house out in Franklin and said, oh, my friend has a farm out in Franklin. You two should know each other since you're going to be living there. and we met just for informational, just to know each other, just for coffee, and ended up a few hours later saying, we should probably schedule interviews, and I ended up joining that firm.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing story. I love that. Just networking efforts leading to a job. It's the best.
Absolutely. And you never know. You never know who is going to be the person who has that next opportunity, or who you're going to be able to help. And then they will, in the future, they'll be able to make an introduction that's helpful to you, or helps to somebody that you care about.
Yes. And, I said this to you very often when we were working together and to all of our attorneys at the firm saying, always have how can I help that question in the back of your mind when you are meeting new people and you are going out into the world because you never know. You just never know who could be your next client, who could be your next prospect, your next referral source, or even your next boss. So I love
Absolutely.
that.
It's
Yeah.
very easy to in this, because I'm one of the rare lawyers who gets to say I love what I do. I can say to people, really, even if you don't think it's going to lead to a client for me, call me, and if you need to be better versed in talking about this area of my practice or that area, call me. I love talking about this. So I'm always genuinely happy to do that. And that has ended up leading to a lot of clients.
Oh, that's just excellent. And you really are a networking extraordinaire. You're so easy to talk to, which probably makes you a great estate planning attorney too, because you're so easy to talk to.
There's a reason why estate planning attorneys are called counselors at law. We earn it.
Yes, you absolutely do. So now that we've learned a little bit about you, I would love to dive into our news, views, and to-dos questions. So what is going on in your world? What's new?
Oh, anybody who's watching who's in the estate planning world, they know what I'm going to say. We're in a time of a lot of change. Um, Estate planning is something people want to do, so they have some certainty. They want some comfort. And right now, the ground is moving beneath our feet, but we aren't sure to where it's actually moving. Congress is floating a lot of different ideas about changing the estate tax exemption, when that might happen, to what it might change. They were talking about doing away with the step up in basis at death, and income tax concepts. We're talking about changing something called the grantor trust rules, which I won't bore you all with, but it's really important to us in estate planning. And they keep changing when these things might be effective. They've been saying, well, they'll be effective when we pass the law, or maybe at a later date. And then they're telling us that maybe it will be the day that they introduce the bill, which has already passed. So it's an interesting time. And that is a risk in the estate planning area. The laws do change. And we really try to prepare our clients for that and draft in a way that's going to be very flexible, that the documents they have will still work. But we also prepare our clients that we have no idea what Congress could get up to. So this could always happen. That's really consuming my life right now.
Yeah, so you really have to always land on your feet and be able to just kind of jump and go at any point.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing to me. And I guess this kind of leads into our next question. How did you pivot for your clients at the start of the pandemic? And what is changing in the legal industry now? And what do you think is the impact of that?
You know, I we have stayed busy throughout the pandemic. Oftentimes in a financial crisis, estate planning might see a little bit of a downturn. It might be seen as a little bit of a luxury item that people can delay, even though you really shouldn't. This pandemic was, even though there was a financial crisis during particularly the beginning of it, and a lot of people are still really suffering, it was coupled with a very real health crisis. And so we were more front and center than ever. Um, if you have estate planning friends, give them a hug. It's been a long, long time for us. We've lost clients. We've helped clients through losing other family members. We have sat with clients virtually, sat with clients through the fear, really having to confront not a theoretical fear of death, but a very real and present fear of death. I make light in my tagline of death and taxes, bringing death and taxes to life, because it's important that my clients could laugh with me. But I'm entrusted with some of their most precious feelings, and we really try to work through it with them. And the pandemic was really an accelerant of a trend that other industries had been seeing, but I don't believe the legal industry had embraced, and that's what we're doing right now, Zoom. Um, my clients, by and large, love Zoom. Our building in Boston is still subject to a mask mandate. So right now, I'm not doing initial meetings with clients in person because it's in our initial meetings, there's so much that we go through, so many concepts that I'm explaining that I think about every day, but normal people don't. And
Mm-hmm.
so I need to see their faces. I need to know, are you still with me? I need them to be able to see and hear me clearly. And that can't happen in a mask. And I am a huge advocate of masking, but it doesn't work in that scenario. So we are still doing initial meetings this way. I've had clients say, Jen, I don't think I ever want to go back to that. I don't want to have to see, well, what I need an hour, but maybe there'll be traffic, so I should leave an hour and a half. And oh, my spouse actually is coming from a completely different direction. It's too much logistics. It is so much easier if people know they can just log on from wherever they are, wherever their spouse is, everybody's in. It really does remove a barrier. And you don't have to worry about parking or the cost of parking in our garage below the building. It makes things a lot easier. And I think that while we have been slow to embrace it, I do think that Zoom is here to stay.
And do you think that that is going to be across the industry or specific to your practice?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think that the litigators are less enamored of it than I am. I think, as you know, we've got some amazing litigators at Conn Kavanaugh, and they have a talent for connecting with people. And a lot of them really want to be able to be in that room with that jury or with that judge or with the expert that they're cross-examining, that really physically being there is meaningful to them. And I do think that in a lot of those cases, it will continue. But again, back to the estate planning practice area, when we work with the probate courts they have done just amazing work during this pandemic, trying to maintain access while keeping everybody safe and healthy. And they've instituted virtual registries. So you can log on to Zoom, and it's wonderful because in the old days, I would go to the court, I would get there at the appointed time, I'd wait in line to get the file, and then maybe I could go to a courtroom and wait until I was called. Meanwhile, I have to charge my client. I'm working on that client's matter. Now, I can log in. If I don't get let right in, it means there's somebody else there. I'm in the waiting room. I have a 3-screen setup, both here and at work. I turn back to my other screens and I'm continuing to do work for another client. And I don't have to bill the client who I'm waiting for that Zoom. So I'm able to get progress. I'm able to see what's going on and talk with somebody right away without the travel, without the waiting. So I hope that we keep that as well. So it can work in court.
Yeah, and that's excellent client service too, to be able to, save them a little bit of money and save them a little bit of billing. And you're also able to focus more time on other clients who may need a little bit more time and attention because you're saving time from all of that travel. So that's an excellent point that I hadn't thought of.
Well, and we are different from anybody dealing with corporations. I'm being paid by an individual, and it makes me think deeply about every 6-minute increment. I'm lucky in that I've developed a practice where my estate planning is all on a flat fee basis. I've been doing it for 20 years. I spend a little bit of time up front to get to know the client, get to know really what we need to do, and then I can quote them a flat fee that is fair to both of us. So there's some certainty. But when we're dealing with a probate court, everything is back to those 6-minute increments. And if I can save my clients a little bit while still moving it forward, absolutely, every day of the week, I'm going to want to do that.
Yeah, that's excellent. And do you think that this change is going to take longer than it really should for
We're talking
everybody?
about lawyers in the legal industry.
That's
We
fair.
don't love change. So yeah, it probably will, but I think that we have passed a point. I think that a lot of this would have happened eventually, but the pandemic did really accelerate that.
Mm-hmm.
If we can be effective, um, we can do the work for our clients, and we can be at home in our hometowns. Maybe we're saving time and becoming more involved with civic organizations, which is both an excellent way to build communities, but it does lead to business. That's a win all around. So I do think that we're going to see more focus on the quality of our interactions rather than the quantity of time that we're physically sitting next to each other, especially now where I might be in the office next to you, but we're still both on our Zoom screen.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's such a good point. You want more quality and less, quantity of the people that you're meeting and these connections you're making, so you can build that community. And I've definitely found a lot of that myself. I have been able to work with legal marketers from across the country because LMA had to, or Legal Marketing Association had to start doing all of their events virtually, which really opened the door for legal marketers to get to know each other even better and really help each other out on some issues that we might be having and be a backbone. Or somebody to kind of do a sounding board off of and get new ideas and work through issues. So some positive things have come out of
Absolutely,
this.
we'll take every last positive we can and try to make the best of it.
Yes, absolutely. So you were talking about working with your clients in this new space and working with them over Zoom. I'm curious, how did you pivot your business development efforts, having to go over Zoom and, gain new clients because you're not out there as much meeting new faces and, meeting people organically anymore?
So, as I know, my two biggest sources of business are provisors and a Facebook group that I belong to that it consists of lawyer moms from around the world. So the lawyer moms group, that was easy enough. We were already online. We were already committed to lifting up women and sharing business as well as supporting each other through everything else that it means to be a lawyer mom. And provisors, I remember right at the beginning, in provisors, as you know, we have troikas. We had large meetings where we would all go into some conference room at some law firm and sit around a table and talk. But then you would have a meeting with just two other people. You would grab coffee or breakfast. And as things started to seem like we were heading down this pandemic path, my mother is older and has a lot of risk factors. So I had said to a troika that I had planned, I'm not comfortable meeting in person. It was cold, so we couldn't do it outside. And I don't think at that point we even thought about the outside of it all. I said, let's try this Zoom thing out. And we did it, and we had a blast. And we were one of the first troikas that did it because it was ahead of the shutdown. But pretty quickly, providers realized that they were going to need to pivot, and they moved everything online. Excuse me. To the point where we actually just started a new virtual only group. And I think you actually might be involved with the virtual only group.
I might be involved with the virtual only group. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
I think that it really is, it's opening doors because I've met with people from across the country. And in my practice area, that's less valuable to me. I have probably taken less advantage of it than some other people have. I don't guess in California or in Texas or Florida, DC, all the different places, Atlanta, Chicago, I think. I don't guess around, but I've met people who've come into the New England region and have actually had business set my way because of conversations we've had. But it has made it easier when my clients have a need in another state to reach out and say, oh, okay, now I've got this vetted, it's all senior trusted professionals. I've got somebody I can turn to there. And again, I don't think that's going to go away fully. I know there's hope to get people back together, but even my home group, we will not be a fully virtual group, but we definitely anticipate having, after whenever that is, at least quarterly, physically meeting in person. So again, I think it's here to stay. And because it's become entrenched in so many areas, it's going to pull the legal field along with it. And I think the fact that it's some practice areas it will transition more quickly than others is appropriate. There are always going to be things that we like doing in person. I miss sitting in a room with my clients. Kristyn, you remember I found the smallest room conference room
Yep.
we had in the firm, and got a nice round table, small round table, a little couch. We always had a basket of goodies because people get anxious when they have to talk about, what happens when I die, who's going to take my kids. And I loved the ability to sit face to face to when it was appropriate, put my hand on somebody's hand and say, I understand this is difficult. I miss that. I love that energy of solving that problem together. But there are so many beautiful things about this. It just really does eliminate a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, absolutely. I do remember that room. It was called the huddle room, and it had a couch in there where I definitely did not lie down at one point.
Well, I'll tell you, it came in handy. I had a very sad case. I met with a young woman um, who was terminally ill, and at that point in a lot of pain she had some tumors, and having the couch in there, I at one point said, "Do you want to move to the couch?" And she said, "Well, just sitting on the couch won't help it. I'm only comfortable when I lay down." And I said, "I lay down, be comfortable. I am fine with this." And it really shifted the whole tone. That's always a hard meeting when you're meeting with somebody, again, where death is not a theoretical. It is really staring them in the face. But it was just her being able to be a little bit more physically comfortable. It shifted everything. And so
Yeah.
I loved the way our firm administrator redid that room to make it into that welcoming, comfortable space that I had hoped for.
Oh, yeah. And that's again great client service. You really do always have your clients in mind with everything that you're doing, and that's amazing to me. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this video interview. Which brings me to my next point. What advice would you like to share with our audience?
So I think too, if I'm sure like me, there are a lot of attorneys watching this because we follow LISI for the great content. I think that what has always worked for me, and it's been expressed in different ways, but it really comes down to three things: be authentic, be consistent, and be strategic. We're developing relationships, and that has to be real. But it is appropriate for us to think about what is our business plan? Where do I want to get? If you don't know where you want to get, you're not going to get there. Have that plan. Make sure that that plan is aiming you in the right direction and that it is true to you. Because when you show up in a space, you don't have to bring all of you to the space, but if you try to bring something that's not you, everybody will always know there's something off and they won't know what it is. It will impact your relationship. And then be consistent. Show up. Showing up is half the battle. And that's true in relationships of all kinds, whether it's a friendship or a business relationship. I show up at my provisors meetings. I show up for the women in my lawyer moms group. It really does make a difference. So be authentic, be consistent, be strategic. And I think everything can really boil down to those three.
Yeah,
Get great
absolutely.
professionals like you to help.
Of course, of course. You always have to have those marketing professionals to assist you in all of your marketing and
Absolutely.
business development efforts. Well, thank you so much. This has been incredibly informative, and this is why I love speaking with you so much because I learned something new about you again, and I've known you for years now. So this is just wonderful. And thank you. I'm so happy to share all of these views with our audience.
I've really enjoyed it. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
Of course. Thank you so much. And I will see everybody in a couple weeks for our next episode. Thanks, everyone.